Hi everyone, joining me today is Henric Trotzig, CEO and founder of the company Happo, an open source project turned into a full-fledged company. And I love the learnings he shares, everything from gradually growing this company to finding the right value with your software and doing so in a resilient way. I think his perspective is quite unique, so I'm sure you'll love this episode, but I have to give a big shout out to his golf friends. You know who you are. So enjoy the episode.
The company that I founded, Happo, together with my colleague Joe, it's always been like we've always had the goal of the work itself isn't the end goal, you know, and I've always a long time I was working mostly by myself. I still had Joe from time to time, but I was mostly working by myself. And at the same time, you know, I was really it was going well, and I was really happy at work. And I know myself, I can work forever. Like I don't stop if I get started.
Yeah.
And that's kind of one of my problems. But then I have this interest in golf. Like I'm a big golfer.
Nice.
And so I had this a couple of years ago. I was like, okay, it's going well, like I'm working, but I also want to do this. So I decided, okay, I'm just going to give golf like a shot. Like I'm going to play a lot of golf. And so I started doing 3 or 4 day work weeks and just take my hobby to like a more fun level.
Yeah.
And so, that's always been like with me through these years. Like I play a lot of golf. And we have now that the company is growing, we're 4 people right now. We're really trying to foster that 4-day work week. And so we kind of force people to have a hobby.
Yeah.
And I know it also sounds like, you know, it's a privilege to be there. Like if the revenue wasn't there or the money wasn't there, we wouldn't be able to do it. But I also think like with like the status quo and like, you know, with venture capital and everything, it's just the norm that like you go to work, you say you work 40 hours a week, but you work way more and we provide for you and everything. And I think it creates, I don't want to say the word like burnout, but I don't see people being all creative and happy at work, you know? And so that's really been one of the reasons, like I think one of the main reasons I started a company is to be able to do something for yourself. Like every hour you spend like working on product, because I love working on product. Like programming is my craft, and so every hour you do that, and that kind of feeds into you get the benefits yourself, and you get to decide how you use those benefits. And so just making sure to take time to do fun things outside of work is really important. And
I really, whenever people come on that have this story about something they create and they get so much energy out of that, I always think it's very inspiring.
Yeah.
But you're different in the fact that you're not aiming for, let's say, a moonshot hockey stick curve that a lot of people that I talk to, I wouldn't say a lot, but some people that I talk to definitely try and aim for that, right?
Yeah.
I feel like that's the norm. You go as fast as humanly possible, you get injected with a cash flow, and then you excel and you hire enormously, and that's it. That's what also venture capitalists want. They want just growth, basically, and more money. Yeah. But you're not like that.
I think I don't like taking that risk. And also I know the statistics, and saying no to investment, which we have done several times, is a way to say, hey, we know that the odds are not in our favor.
Yeah.
Like we're most likely not going to win this. And I think with, you know, the growth that Happo has had since it started in I think I started the company 2017.
Yeah.
No one would be interested in that. Like it's not the hockey stick. It's like, you know, I don't know. It's a
steady growth.
Yeah, steady growth. But it's too small or too slow for anyone to like really invest like a lot of money. And actually, like some of the discussions or talks that I had with investors kind of led me into being more proud and more like confident that this is the way to go. I remember one talk I had, don't remember the name of this person, but he basically said like, you know, it sounds like you've got something really good. Like one option is just, hey, to say no to me. Like to say, hey, I don't want that. Like, cause we will find people, he said, like there will be others who are ready to
say yes.
Okay. And who are ready to like, you know, throw themselves completely into a project. But it sounds like you've got way too much good stuff for that to risk that. And I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. You know, I'm just so, just focusing on like building a good product. And I find, you know, one of the things I think that has made Happo successful is the fact that I really love doing support. Like you know, when you've written the code yourself, and someone has an issue, you're like, oh my God, I probably screwed something up. You know, there's a bug here. I'm sure I'm the one responsible. So you start looking into it, and sometimes it's just like, you know, oh, maybe the documentation was kind of not up to date, and then a lot of times there is a bug, and because then you find it, and then you have someone who's affected by it. You fix it within, you know, a few hours sometimes, and the satisfaction from me and from the person who is reaching out, because most people, let's face it, they probably give up before they reach out. So when someone is asking, actually like sending you a message, and you get to talk to this person, it's a fantastic feeling, you know. And so that's one of the things, because if I talk to investors, they're like, well, should try to get like a first line support from, you know, you could outsource it. And then yes, would that make our end users happier? No, like, because it's just like, we're just buying time. And if we find that people are reaching out to us about something that, you know, maybe it's a documentation issue, maybe they haven't, sometimes, you know, you have support where people misunderstood your product. That's also a case. And we always see these as a moment to like, okay, let's improve that. Let's make it more clear that when they land on this page, it's about signing up for this product and not something else, you know? And then all the efforts you make kind of feed back into your product, and then your product becomes more stable and consistent, and then you have less support. So it's this like win-win thing. And sometimes when it's going too well and no one is having an issue, you know, like you're kind of waiting for that spark to happen.
It sounds like a super fulfilling process though, of like continuous iteration and continuous improvement. And it's very contrasting to what I've seen in the market. And I always use this example of video games, because I used to buy a video game and I would get a CD and it works, or it has bugs and you can never fix it. Nowadays with software, you bring something, you launch a video game, you have a day one patch, and then a week one patch, and then a couple of weeks you have another patch, and they all fix bugs and they all do improvements, and it's always continuous, but it will always launch with a lot of bugs. And I feel like as soon as you get kind of this cash inflow and more people on board, they have a vested interest in you launching and adding value as soon as possible, regardless on if those features are actually usable or if they are in use in the first place. It's just adding everything on top of things to go as fast as possible and to eventually just cash out, I feel like. This path of gradual development and product improvement and like excellence in quality, I'm happy it exists. I'm really happy you're on that path. And I think it might be fulfilling for a certain type of person. I think the other path is also fulfilling in a different way. Maybe one that I don't really exactly understand currently. It definitely is more of a monetary aspect, and I've never been on either path. But I always like ideating on, okay, I feel like at some point I will start something that is my own. And then it's a question of, okay, which path do you want to take?
I think the path will show itself. Like for me, it was very much like I had already started when I realized like this is the path that I'm going down. Like I've always been building tools and products, you know, had a couple of open source projects, nothing like really big, but just kind of fun programming projects, and something that fixes a problem. Like as a software engineer, you fix a problem, you're super happy.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how small or big it is.
It's the best feeling.
Yeah, it's the best feeling. And so if you have a problem, or if you can fix a problem for many people, I also had that idea. Like one day I'm going to start a company. But starting a company that's like a sidebar. Like it just happens it has to happen. But if you're fixing something, if you're making something better, and that could be a product, then you started the company.
How did you do that? Because the path that people are on, I feel like it can happen naturally, like you're explaining it. And I've also seen companies that are like, okay, we have this certain software and we want to open source part of it because we've seen a community aspect helps building the software. So that's like the path they want to go in.
Yeah.
Or indeed where someone has something open source and they're trying to create a product around it, but there might not be anything to productize. Like there might not be a good model for it.
Yeah. I can talk a little bit about open sourcing, but I cannot talk about, okay, so I think a lot of open source projects that have turned into products, they start building a product or start building a tool or something, and then they get some traction. The community starts providing pull requests and patches and stuff like that. That didn't happen for me. Like we had an open source project. Yes, we did get some pull requests, but like on the order of 10 or 20 or 50. Like it wasn't a big community thing.
Gotcha.
But what it did was it did give us the confidence that companies can make use of this. And I think also, Joe and I built the open source project, and Airbnb started using it, which was really big for us.
Huge, to be honest.
Yeah, it was huge for us. And I think that plus some other not I wouldn't say super large companies, but Airbnb definitely sparked that. And then we kind of got the reassurance that okay, this could be a real thing. Still going to Airbnb and saying, hey, we're going to start charging you for this. That was awkward. That was an awkward conversation. But there was some I appreciate their take on that too, because they acknowledged that it was a tool that they had invested a lot of time and effort into integrating with. And so they basically, they were more worried. They weren't more worried about the money because it's still
Airbnb.
Nothing for them. But they were more worried that I was just going to abandon this, because at the time it was just me.
Oh yeah.
And
huge risk.
Yeah, huge risk.
Yeah.
Imagine, because they have thousands of developers.
Of course.
And they really if Happo was broken, they're still using it. And if Happo is broken, they block things from getting,
of course,
merch and everything.
Yeah,
so
all of them are impacted.
Yeah, it's a big big thing sorry,
risk.
Yeah. But yeah, so that kind of got us started, and I moving back to Sweden because I was having a kid. Sweden seemed like a better place, and it definitely is to have a kid. It also just gave me the confidence to invest some of the money that I've been saving up. It wasn't a whole lot, but enough to give myself a little bit of a runway.
Yeah.
And to have the guts to reach out to Airbnb and some other companies saying, hey, can you pay? And yeah, that's how it started.
I love that journey. It's incredible. I would be looking, if I were to be in that position, it would also be a huge scare, right? Because Airbnb is a huge company. Like you mentioned, if 1,000 engineers are, let's say, your users, and you create something and it has a bug and those 1,000 people are impacted.
Yeah.
It can be any 1,000 people, but it's specifically if it's within Airbnb and that company, it would be a bit daunting, I would say.
Yeah.
How'd you manage kind of that feeling of grandness that your product is kind of being adopted?
Yeah, I don't know, to be honest. I think part of it is just forgetting.
Yeah. Don't think about it.
Yeah, don't think about it because something can happen at any moment. And most of the time, because I was living in Sweden, they were on the West Coast in the US, most of them. And so when something broke, I wasn't there.
No.
I mean, I still had the support numbers for them to call, and I tried to stay on top of things all the time. But I don't know, just things happen. Like things break, and everyone who is working with software, they know it's going to break sooner or later.
Yeah.
So just a lot of support from them, I would say. Just rolling with it, just trusting yourself that you'll be able to fix stuff when they happen.
Yeah. Awesome. I love that as well. I'm very curious to hear your take on kind of products that are out there nowadays, because I feel like from a software engineering hat, if something is not free for me to use, let's say either open source or from a company perspective, that hurdle will already put me off, and I might not even give it a try, right? If I need a license to something, then getting a license versus trying another free option, I'll go with the free option. See if it solves my problem. And then usually I'll stick to that, or I'll try a few different things and see what the benefits are. And I'll choose based on the free options, right? This licensing model, I don't think has longevity anymore, other than like more enterprise related things like an IDE or something. But then also for a piece of software, either open source or a product to be out there, it needs to have a certain level of maturity. But do you agree with that? Because you mentioned, okay, we put this open source software out there. It was not even the goal of creating a company around it, but it found adoption. Was it mature enough for you to say, okay, it had that level of maturity that you need to strive for? Or what's your take on that?
I mean, it did, right?
Yeah. It must have.
If you had asked me if I'd been on the podcast, I'd say no.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Because I think if you're not like somewhat embarrassed by some of the stuff that you built, like you haven't put yourself out there.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I'm writing code and sometimes you're touching code that I don't like. I started with Kubernetes and stuff. Like, I didn't know anything about that.
Yeah.
No, I don't. Sorry, I kind of lost track here of the question.
No, it was more of maturity. You mentioned, okay, it was mature, but you wouldn't have said it was mature back then.
Yeah. But I think I just trusted myself that it's mature enough. And of course, the fact that people were using it, and I saw that, it creates a feedback cycle of like, okay, it's not horrible at least.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
I think that's fascinating.
Doing something. Yeah.
Like the fact that you're saying, okay, it was mature, right? Because that's what happened. That's more history.
Yeah.
But back then I didn't think it was mature enough. I'm wondering how many people are kind of facing that are developing something without it being put out in the open, and they don't put it live yet because they don't think it's mature enough because of that either hesitation or more so imposter syndrome.
Oh yeah. That's a feeling you just gotta
get
rid of. Just let go. You have to put it, like, you have to get it into the hands of users, and the sooner you can charge the value that the product has for it. Like, if you're, like, if it's a startup with a venture-backed startup, they sometimes do this, like they build a product and it's like, it's a good product. And then they start charging people, it's a couple of bucks here and there. Like it's not much, it's not enough. And then they never reach the point where like, oh, we can actually charge them what it is worth.
Yeah.
Or what we think it's worth, or even just being sustainable. Because we have told them that like, this is a cheap product. We just charge them like $5 per user per month. But then in reality, it should be like 50. And then so the sooner you get to 50, you don't have to have a lot of customers.
Okay.
Like that's one thing I've learned. Like, and also, you talk about, if there is a free option that you can try out, I think that's great. Like we do that too. Like you can use Happo to a certain level for free, like, because that's just the way people start using tools. And that's not, I think for us, it's not about like trying to lure someone in. It's just about like, how are they going to try it if there's no free option? So simple as that. But if there is a tool, if I see a SaaS tool on the market that does not have the free option, I'm like, oh my God, this must be amazing.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because
if you have the guts to like say, hey,
only paid.
we we charge people, of course. Like you can try. I mean, we'll show it to you. Like, no worries. I would love to get there. Like, I don't think we're gonna get there now, but that would be fun. I don't know what.
I think it's a new perspective. Like, I haven't heard that one yet. That you're so confident that like we don't need a free model. Like, we have paying customers, and this is it. Basically, you get what you pay for, and we have high quality. But this price model that you talked about, right? Not underselling yourself with regards to what you're putting out in value. Yeah. I feel like that's going to be difficult. Did you experiment with like different price points and like different plans, or how'd you finalize what you have now versus kind of the learning path?
I mean, there's been some back and forth. Yeah. But honestly, also the resources and the time that we've had to like put into optimizing that pricing, for instance, it just hasn't really been there. It's not until recent times that we've done that. And, you know, going from doing this myself to bringing in more people, there were some contracts and some like pricing that I had set that was just like,
it's not going to work.
It's not going to work, you know? And I was so afraid of like touching it. Like, I just wanted to like, these are great people. I love them, but can we not talk to them? And they're like, no, we have to talk to them. And so that has been a project over the last year too. And one of the things that really, because I think we raised our prices, 30% or something overall, a little bit depending on how much you're using and everything. But I had a conversation with a friend in the co-working office. He works for a company called Lookback, who's a SaaS company, like user experience testing. And we were talking to him, and we were telling him about how we're reaching out to people, like raising prices. It's not fun. And he was like, "That's great. Oh. Like, just make sure that you lose some customers." And we're like, "What are you saying?" Like, not lose, but if you do lose customers, like if you raise your prices, like you might lose a few that maybe weren't ready. They didn't see the full value of it. Oh. And so that's been really, and it's still like hard for me to talk about, because I don't want to, you have customers and they're great, and some of them are fantastic, and then you're talking to them like, "Hey, we're gonna charge you a little bit more." It's hard from my perspective. It's hard, but I think if someone came to me and did that, well, like, I would. There are some tools that I would happily pay a lot more for. That I think are like underpriced. I'm trying to.
The first thing that came to my mind is, because I had a recent conversation about this, is my hairdresser keeps upping his prices. Oh. And I keep going back because it's like the best haircut that I get. And if I go somewhere else, they mess me up. It's like, I think it's worth it.
Yeah, I mean, you have a good haircut, so.
Thank you. I went recently. But it's like, I think it's ridiculous at some point. But even though I think it's ridiculous, it's still worth it. And I keep going back. Yeah. That's the value it has for me. Yeah, I think it's similar.
And they've probably lost some customers.
I think so.
But maybe this hairdresser is able to take 5 clients per day instead of 7. Yeah, and then you have 2 hours or like an hour extra every day to do something fun. Yeah, that would be great. And that's kind of how I think we should look at it.
Yeah, very interesting. You don't go for volume, but you go for quality and value.
I mean, we also want volume.
Of course,
right?
Yeah. Like volume is, but it's not like you can have volume as a goal, right? Yeah. And then you go quickly, you deliver something kind of surface level, and then you try and aim for as wide of a net instead of the depth that you offer now. Yeah. I think it's a different kind of playing field. And I love that you're coming onto a podcast like this, or just sharing your learnings in general. Did you have a network of people that you could contact to and kind of ask these questions with regards to, like you mentioned the example of, okay, we're upping prices, and it would make me feel uncomfortable as well. Did you have that network?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I didn't know I had it, but I do. Awesome. And I think oftentimes when you have something hard, like a hard problem to solve, and you start talking to people, like some people will be interested in helping you. And And the co-working space is great for that. I mean, we have, I don't know, it's probably like 30 companies or something. And not all of them are relevant, like in the same field as us, but you know, there are always going to be people that have gone through similar things. Like we've gone through another thing done is Happo's been a Swedish company up until like, and now we're in the process of moving that to the US.
Yeah.
And not a lot of people have experience doing those things. So being able to tap into some of our contacts has been helpful. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, like you came across to me in our first conversation also now just as a really genuine guy. And I feel like the people that are authentic and are asking for help, usually people are kind enough to help you out then.
Yeah.
Right? I never noticed it. And it's only that I noticed it because I reach out to people for podcast stuff.
Yeah.
And then people love it, first of all. It's also because I offer something, but then the network that I have from that, I don't tap into it often, but I definitely know that the relationships that I build up, I can rely on if need be.
Yeah.
I'm really happy that you said that you didn't even know it, but when you kind of reached out, that it was that kind feedback that you were looking for.
Yeah.
And that helpfulness. Makes me happy to hear that that's there.
Yeah. Not knowing it also, we had this project of, I don't know, Joe, my colleague, he found this blog post about sending 100 emails as a like tool to reach out to more people. So you just take 100 of your contacts, like your network. People don't think they have that many, but they do. And they just send like a personalized email saying, hey, I'm doing this thing now. If you have anything that can help me support, I'd be super happy. If not, hey, just hello. Nice to meet you. Nice to talk to you again. Like it's good to keep in contact. And of course, I don't think you really can. Your network you kind of build over the years, like just being a nice person. I think people who are where it's too obvious that they're like trying to build a network just for the network itself. It kind of I don't know. Maybe it flips me off a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit off-putting. Yeah, like I don't know what triggered it, but I have this thought that the first CEO that I ever had, I maybe talked to him a handful of times. Right, it's a big organization. My first job ever somehow has my email, and every Christmas for the last 6-7 years, every New Year's, he sends like an email. But I think he does it to everyone though.
Yeah.
So I don't know how genuine this is, but he's so consistent with it that I know his name, I know what he's doing because that's like what is in his email.
Yeah.
And he still wishes everyone a happy holiday and a happy new year. It's like, yeah, I can't fault him for that, even though it might be like a network thing.
Yeah.
I don't mind it, to be honest. I think
also
it's nice.
like if you're a CEO person and you keep contact with your network, there are probably a lot of people that are going to be happy to have that contact. He's showing, or she's, I didn't know if it was a man or woman. Yeah. Showing that like I still like think about you every now and then. That's great.
I hope it's that I'm not just a name in an email list.
I mean, it's probably both.
It could be both.
It could
be both.
Like,
yeah. I just thought it was like, I thought of doing that, and then I feel like, would I be genuine enough to like do that? I don't know. Like early on, I made so many friends working, right? Because that's how I like to work. I like to be myself, and the people that like me for who I am, we become friends usually. And then maybe I use the term friends loosely because afterwards I'm horrible at keeping touch. But I do notice that if, for example, someone moves abroad and I'm there, that I can reach out and we'll have a beer, we'll have a good laugh.
Yeah.
And it's like, even though I don't know it's there, I'm happy that it is there, basically. That there are people that those relationships that you've created, those are there and they can even stand the test of time. Yeah. In a few years, you can still reach out to those same people and I think they'll make time for you. Yeah. And you can still have a laugh.
Yeah.
That's awesome, to be honest.
Yeah, like tomorrow, 2 days, I'm seeing my friend JP.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think I've talked to him in 10 years.
Wow.
But, he saw that I was going to the Netherlands and he was here as well. And we're going to meet up. It's going to be fun.
Happy to hear, man. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I was wondering about this. I read an article and it talked about kind of founder mode, especially when you're a software engineer, you have a technical background. Your part of a startup is very much hands-on. And it can get to a point, depending on the company size, that you get into more of a leadership role and your hands-on doesn't become hands-on anymore.
Yeah.
Because you talk to people and those people do more of the hands-on. And that's how you create a team and sometimes even the company hierarchy. With regards to what you do now on a day-to-day, has it changed kind of compared to the beginning? Are you more involved in marketing and sales and stuff like that? Or are you still very much hands-on?
Did you talk to my colleagues?
No, absolutely not. I genuinely just...
It has definitely, it is changing.
Yeah.
You know, going from like 1 or 2 people to a team, even if it's like a small team, it changes your responsibilities. I mean, I am the CEO of my company, but I'm still very hands-on. I think we're not in a position yet where I can be hands-off. And I don't know if I want to.
It doesn't sound like you want to from this conversation.
No, I mean, I'm a craftsperson.
Yeah.
Like my thinking, I start thinking when I put my hands on the keyboard. Like I'm not like, you know, go to a meeting. I could do that too, like a creative, like brainstorming session, but it's not until I actually start typing that I'm creative. And I think it's going to be like, I don't see myself as a CEO of, you know, like a company with 50 employees. I would find someone to do that.
Yeah.
But I am very, you know, I'm very invested in this company.
Of course.
And I want it to succeed. And my colleagues right now, they're really helping me. I mean, we've had such good like conversations in the last couple of weeks. We had one kind of like very emotional thing where all of us shared our weaknesses. Like we were very open to, you know, what are my weaknesses, and how can we support each other? And it was very humbling, like to read about, you know, like I am a person who is, when you don't like people like touching your things, like I'm territorial. I'm a territorial person. It's not something I'm proud of, but I am. And then you have to, knowing that really helps because then you can adapt to being a good leader for that person. And, you know, and another person, it might have been me. You know, I avoid delegating.
Okay.
And the longer I wait, let's say I have to do this thing and it doesn't have to be me, but I kind of said to someone that I was going to do it or it needs to get done. And then I keep postponing it. And then to a point where like, oh my God, it's so late. I should really do this. And then I have this tendency of like, just like pushing it even more away. And I've learned that like I have to be able to delegate at that point too. Like even when it's too late, I have to ask for help.
Yeah.
There was this like email I really needed to send. I kept telling people I was going to do it. And then we had this discussion around the weaknesses. And I was like, okay, I sent the email, but I asked for help from my colleagues. And it was resolved in like 15 minutes. And then I'd been stressing about it for, you know, months.
Yeah.
And so that's I mean, I have to at some point figure out how to be a leader for people going forward because we're going to grow and
It's not just leadership though, like those conversations. I love the example that you gave. For me, it's always whenever you're forming a team, if you can, and usually you can, you just have to take it and use that autonomy to learn from each other, learn about each other's preferences, learn about each other's weaknesses. I'm now in a product management role. I love to learn about what people want to learn. If I see that learning opportunity, I put the person in that place. They're going to be the happiest they've ever been, basically.
Yeah.
I check up on them and see, do you like this certain piece of work? Do you want to do more of this? So I'm aware of that. I accommodate for that. I get certain emails and I have no problem postponing emails or replying later. Like I have my list in my head of what I think is important. And emails usually sometimes are not on there. But I have this other person. And when there's an email, they have like this burning feeling inside that there's something undone.
Yeah.
And they're like, are you going to reply to that email? I'm like, well, I wasn't planning on it. If you feel like I learned that this person has that and I gave them the autonomy, if you need to reply.
Yeah.
Don't wait for me.
Yeah.
And they're like, thank you. And then they do that. Like that's our modus operandi. And only through time and only through having those conversations, knowing each other, can we be effective as a team to do so?
Yeah.
I think it's immensely valuable, especially when you're, as a team, responsible for everything at the end of the day. And that's the case for your company.
Yeah.
Yeah. How was it? Because you mentioned, and I think I would be the same, you have a vested interest, right? You're invested in this product. You've done this for many years. It's your thing. Hiring new people and giving that piece away, delegating is already challenging. How do you hire the right people? How was it having someone new on board?
I mean, it's great.
Yeah, that's good.
But hiring itself, like, it's sort of, I mean, these are people close to me.
Okay.
And you know, it's someone's neighbor. It's I think for me it's been harder to, I haven't actively looked for people to join, but I have, and when someone is really excited about something, because I will tell people about what I do.
Of course.
And then, but I need that excitement. You know, I need someone to want to start working here. And so we haven't got to a point where we're like actively hiring. You know, it has kind of grown a little bit, you know, amongst friends and amongst. I mean, it's more like a family company that way. Yeah, I think going forward, I'm always going to look for people who are excited about what we do. And I'm very honest about the fact that we're not like, Happo is a screenshot testing tool.
Yeah.
It's testing like front ends and UI for people. It's not super exciting for everyone. Like, it's just a tool that's going to be there. But I need people who are excited about, you know, building a product long term. And when you find those people, it doesn't really matter what their skill sets are, because you're gonna find their place in the company and what they do.
I like that a lot. Like, that's very different from an answer that I've heard where it comes to Indeed, like, these are the things to look out for. You hired people that you knew or that are close to you. Yeah. Does that also come with a downside though? Because that's at least my assumption, that you can have some heavy-handed conversations.
Yes.
And that also can affect those relationships. Yeah.
But I think at least for now, when we're still a small team, if someone gets upset, they don't have to have the filter of, you know, he's my boss or he's this colleague that I don't really know.
Yeah.
They're like, these are very close to me. And so I can say I can tell them what I think. And so the conversations are more honest, I think. I think the weaknesses discussion that we had was, wouldn't have happened if we wouldn't have been that close, you know? And so I think there are pros and cons, but right now, more pros than cons.
That's amazing.
And like, what's better than working with the people that you love? Like, these people, these are the people I want to be around. So why not do that? Like,
I mean, there's a saying that when it comes to like the time you spent, you might see your colleagues more than some parts of your family.
Yeah.
And especially if you can combine those two, like I see the benefit. I talked to a few friends that I had in high school, and they started a company together. They sold boba tea, because that's like they worked at a company out of university, same company, same group of friends. And those two guys decided to do it themselves, built a web shop, were selling different diverse types of drinks. And then one person said, okay, we need to go right. One person said, we need to go left. And that's where it like clashed. And one person said, it's either my way or the highway, and they're not friends anymore. Yeah. And I was like, man, like if that's the risk, I don't know if it's because either of them is like more like stubborn than the other, or maybe not flexible enough, or maybe not, like you also need to have an experimental mindset. You try both and you see what sticks, right? Yeah. And you save the friendship rather than the company, basically. But that story just broke me. I was like, man, I asked one of the guys, I was like, do you think you could still be friends? He was like, hell no. I was like, man, that's really sad. Like that would be the risk, I feel like, working together with people that are close to you. But then it's also your responsibility to make sure it doesn't break the relationship. Yeah, definitely. I think it's inevitable. Like it's going to happen at some point, that we just have to like trust each other enough that we have no ill intent doing this. And I think, the money being
our own. Like we have no like external investment. It's just we've invested in this ourselves, our time and our passion. It makes it easier, you know, because otherwise you have investors and then you have an opportunity to like, because we've been contacted about from a couple of different like larger companies that want to, you know, either like acquire us or hire us as like our talent for the stuff that we're doing. But we know that like we have a very like the product that we're building works, like it's gonna continue growing. Like that's a very good feeling to have, and that kind of sets everyone's trajectory going the right way.
Yeah,
it's not gonna fix all the indifference or the like discussions that we have around where we're going, but I also maybe it could work because I think I'm the most stubborn in the company. And I think that's part of why it's been me most of the time, just myself. And so all the decisions that I made, I mean, I had to do them. They're not the greatest, but I did them and some of them really worked, and I'm going to stick with most of them. No, I can have strong opinions, but what is the saying? Like strong opinions loosely held, something like that.
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
That's great, man. Thank you for coming on and sharing your story.
It's been fun.
Honestly, congrats on all your success. Like, I think it's rare that I meet a person that's like so genuine and does it their own way with like good principles and good values. And I think that's what I feel, at least when I'm talking to you. So thank you for coming on and sharing.
Thank you for having me. It's been a lot of fun.
I'm going to round off here. I'm going to put all Henric's socials in the description below and some stuff about Happo. Check it out. Let me know what you think, and we'll see you on the next one.